And of course, you always have to check your facts anyways.
All right. It's 6:59, so we'll get started. We're not going to spend a lot of time on the preamble because I know we're all interested in what our candidates say. Just thought I'd introduce myself. My name's Tamara Dawson. I'm a member of the Hall Society Board. You can't be up here talking to everybody without making a call out about the Hall Society Board. Everything that we do is funded by our bottle donations. So we encourage you two ways to donate your bottles, but also we're going to encourage you to drink a little bit more because donations are down. I want to make sure everybody knows that this evening is being recorded. So if you're uncomfortable with that, you'll need to go. I was going to make a joke about a Coldplay concert. I guess I did. I think so I'm going to set up the evening and go through some housekeeping, but I thought maybe we'd just start off the night by giving a big round of applause to our 5 candidates. Thank you so much for running. Excellent. They will introduce themselves as we go on. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So for residents, if you could please, and even candidates, make sure your phones are turned off. If you need to leave or step out for a moment, please just wait till our candidates are no longer talking so because we are recording this. Getting up will interrupt that. And then please no side conversations either, just so that everybody can focus on what we're talking about. So our candidates, if possible, one of the things that we find valuable, because we are recording, if you can stand when you answer your question. Learning from the last forum, and I think Alex has given you an introduction, microphone should go in front. As for questions, what we've done is we have quite a few questions, so we put them into themes so that we could get to the theme of everybody's questions. If you find that somebody has answered similar to what you have answered, you're welcome to just say, I align with what person X said, so that way we can keep moving and get the questions to continue to go. And you're also welcome to pass on a question. So just to recap, all questions were submitted either in written format by our website or on here. Andrea's got paper and a pen, so if you have a question, give a nod to Andrea. She'll make sure she gets the paper to you, and I will take the question. No verbal questions, and that's just in the interest of time. We're going to start with our candidates. Everybody is going to do a 4-minute introduction. We've decided to do it alphabetically, so Paul will go first. And then as for the questions, we're just going to do them random. 2 minutes per question. Cheryl, to keep things on track. At your 30-second mark, whether it's your intro or your close, she will give you a yellow flag. At your end, she'll give you a red flag. So at your red flag, you've got to wrap up that sentence. Yeah, and that's basically it. So let's kick it off with Paul.
Sure. Great, thanks, Tamara. Thanks for organizing it. Hi, everybody. I'm Paul Ashford, and I'm excited to be running for re-election for the Summer Village of White Sands Council in 2025. I live in Calgary, and I've been so fortunate to have owned a second home here at White Sands for the last 23 years with my wife, Julie, and my 3 daughters. I call White Sands and the lake my happy place, and I'd love nothing more than to see the village hold on to its natural charm and connected community, even as White Sands evolves and the surrounding areas grow over the coming decades, and I'd love to be a part of continuing to help make that happen. I've learned so much in my first year at council since being elected in 2024, and I intend to build on that experience to help White Sands remain a vibrant and desirable family community long into the future. I'm so grateful to Mayor Lorne. He's been such a dedicated mentor and guide to myself and the other new councillor. And we've all worked together effectively as a team in this last year, along with administration, to improve communication and resolve challenges. One of the issues we identified early on was ambiguity in several of the existing policies and bylaws, with the result that administration did not have clear guidelines for their operations, and residences were continually experiencing and communicating frustrations. We've updated and clarified and enhanced many policies, including snow removal, beach gate access, and shoreline protection. We've implemented the golf cart pilot bylaw and updated the traffic and OHV bylaw, which were key mandates communicated from the community at the time of the last election. Opening the Front Street office here has been important for providing improved services to the residents and improving communication between residents, administration, maintenance, and council. It's been exciting to see the passion and dedication towards improving our village shown by the residents, council member, and village staff. And I think we can all notice the improvements that there have been in the last year. One of the initiatives that I'm particularly proud of spearheading has been enhanced utilization of the benefits of the Parkland Regional Library Society membership for White Sands. And that includes awareness of the free services at the Stettler Public Library and other local public libraries in the area for residents, as well as bringing out the summer children's reading and activity program here at the hall Wednesday afternoons, which I understand has been well received at the start, and I'm excited to see that continue. If I'm elected to continue representing the residents of White Sands, my priorities are going to shift towards some of the longer term projects and important things that are facing us, including renewal of the right-of-way lease of agreements with the Alberta government, lake stabilization and access issues, enhanced nature trails and recreational amenities as identified by the recent Recreation Committee survey, and advocating for managed and controlled regional development. Along with this, we'll continue to be ongoing diligence in managing the spending and expenditures of the village and the various authorities and commissions that our tax dollars all support. I'll continue to be a voice for White Sands residents, receptive to the diversity of vision and direction communicated from the community. My career is in the oil and gas industry, specializing on the operational engineering side of the business with a more recent focus on greenhouse gas emissions management. I've been exposed to a broad variety of technical leadership and managerial issues through my career with assignments in head office, field, and international. I've had success bringing people together, building strong relationships and effective communication among field and office staff, executives, stakeholders, and regulators. My engineering, business, and managerial experience adds a level of bench strength to the White Sands Council to ensure the best short and long-term decisions are made going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Paul.
Good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tamara. Barry Gannett. Some of you know me, and I want to start with thanking you for showing up. I really appreciate that you will take the time on a beautiful day like this to come and hear us maybe brag about our skills and such. But my wife and I built in 2008 Aspen Ridge Boulevard. We've been out here for 34 years. Some of you may remember her parents, Al and Pauline McLaughlin, had a place on First Street for years. I was fortunate enough to be on council from 2010 to 2017 and super fortunate to work with Lauren and be mentored by Lauren for 7 years, a true leader, a man that all you see in this village is mostly because of Lauren, honestly. So I'm going to keep it short and sweet, and that's it.
Thank you, Barry. Yeah, my name is Donna Marquardt. Good evening, former councillors, fellow candidates, ladies and gentlemen, moderator. I thank you who serve on council and the committees, as your work is very important to the community, so I thank you again. I have watched the council and the work they've produced in the short time since the by-election, and I'm impressed with the steps that they have taken. Bravo. I also see areas where improvements can be made. The financial transparency has suffered a bit, and there are ways that that can be corrected. Availability of council to the taxpayers can also be improved, and I promise to make availability one of my cornerstones if I am elected. I bring a keen understanding of financial governance, and it is not, we need more money, let's raise taxes. The principle of raising taxes 3 to 4% every year is not acceptable and is not sustainable. That eventually becomes a great sum. We need to press our concerns to the municipal Alberta government for solutions regarding the educational taxes, the policing taxes, and that would bring a great relief to us. In communicating with municipal leaders and CEOs, I have great experience gained from working as an account executive with the Edmonton Chamber of Commerce, and I'm willing to offer my experience for the benefit of this small community. It's council's responsibility to make sure financial accountability is present and understandable. Some ground was lost this past year and a half, and the budget needs to be trimmed intelligently, and we need to hold the line somehow. Hikes are not sustainable for some of the community members, and bylaws are becoming burdensome as well, and some review of them with the idea of making life easier, not worse, could happen. Another absence was the lack of grants applied for, other than the usual ones provided by municipal office affairs. It would be good to see expansion in this area of seeking grants for various things, like maybe a community hall or whatever. If we have a written vision for the community, crafted by the community, then we know where we're going and can plan how to get there. Then we would know where to put a community hall, any of these other things, what kind of trails and playgrounds. If we don't, any road will get us exactly nowhere. There are some emergent issues that an innovative council could guide us through: septic access, lake water levels, being taxed by outside municipalities, shore leases, boat launch, maintenance, and surprise, who knows what the next big problem will be. We, the community, really do know what is best for this area. We live here, we see. We need processes to guide us in our decision-making, succession planning, streamlining governance, using committees to assist council would help. And I'm thinking of a Ways and Means Committee, just like the County of Stettler has. And please watch the council meetings. This is how you know what is happening. And please vote for me as a council member, for the community, by the community.
Thanks, Donna.
Thank you. My name's Leona Thorogood, and I don't know how many of you know me very well, but I thought maybe I would take this time and just acquaint you with who I am and where I have been. Thank you to the Hall Society for putting this on, and thank you to you, the residents, and the previous councils for everything that you've done to make this home. My family bought our cabin in 1992, and we used it as a secondary residence for a number of years. We would come out here from July to September. Our kids would run, play, swim, have a great time. We would become unplugged, and that was our lives as our kids were growing up. It was the best decision of our lives to move out here and to have this place that we called our cabin. In 2014, we decided to put a basement underneath our cabin, and I can remember Lauren coming over every day saying, "It's gonna fall into the lake, it's gonna fall into the lake." But it didn't, Lauren. Anyway, in January of 2023, after we put the cabin down, got the renovations done, I moved out here full time, and I am now a permanent resident of White Sands. For my professional career, I have a Bachelor of Education, and I taught for 5 years before moving to Stettler in 1983. We bought an accounting practice, and I received my CGA CPA in 1990. I've since sold the practice, but I'm still employed by that firm, and I work there for 2 months of the year. So I have a 40-year accounting career, so I kind of have a little bit of an idea of what the finances are. I work at the office during March and April, and I also now have my SIM designation. And for those of you who don't know, that means that I can officiate weddings, funerals, and other life cycle events, and I really enjoy the creative process that involves. For council experience, when I lived in Stettler, from 2004 to 2013, I was a Town of Stettler councillor. So off of that, there were many boards and committees that I was assigned to in my role as a councillor. You have to remember that as a municipality within the County of Stettler, many of those boards are shared, and they're shared both with the villages and with the town and the county. So serving on those boards has gave me a fairly good insight as to what was happening. I have a good understanding of municipal policies and procedures, and I realize also that that's not all there is to it. There has to be a balance between the needs and wants of the community, between the needs and wants of the municipality, and how we can achieve the best possible outcome for our village. I know that work is important, and I know that it is important to be collaborative. In my volunteer life, I can tell you that I've been very busy. I've been on the founding board of the Boys and Girls Club in Stettler. I've taken positions as my kids have gone through different activities in the swim club and synchronized skating. I have chaired the Stettler Health Services Foundation for longer than I would like to admit, but I'm no longer doing that. I've also been the official agent and treasurer for our Member of Parliament, Kevin Sorensen, for a number of years. I also offer my time and energy to my church board. I've been a member of the Connect Club of Stettler for a long time, and I served on the national board as the first official national president. In summary, I want to let you know that I have a very diverse background in both my professional, municipal, family, and volunteer communities. I believe in communication, and I look forward to conversations with you. I won't make empty promises. I haven't sat on this council. There are things that I know that could be corrected and could be made better. But it's with conversations with not only you, but also with council, that we can make those things come true.
Thank you. Leona.
Thank you. My name is Dan Zembel. Thank you for the Hall Society for putting this on. Thank you for the candidates to step up. And thank you to Lauren for 28, 29, 30 years, I don't know, but thank you. Debbie and I have lived in White Sands for coming on 5 years now. We really enjoy the lake and the community. We live here full time. I do have a business in Calgary that I still commute to a couple times a week, and I manage a number of transfer sites there as well. I'd like to think of myself as semi-retired. I think Debbie would dispute that. She feels very differently about that. I have a master's in public administration, so I do understand bureaucracy and some of the challenges in working through some of that government stuff. I was elected in a by-election last fall. I've enjoyed being a councillor, and as deputy mayor, I've also learned a lot about some of the functions that we get involved with. For more information on my bio, on me, on a personal note, please look at my bio. I'd like to, some of the lessons that I've learned from being involved in the past little while is that White Sands property owners come out here and live out here or play out here for a variety of reasons: family, boating, fishing, community, nature, and a slower pace. So, I've also been a steady contributor to the Bottle Depot, by the way. Steady but not big, but let's just go that way. It has been busy for the last 8 to 9 months, and some of the lessons that I've learned are it's a tight budget. I know we all pay property taxes. We'd like to all pay less, not more. Unfortunately, at least I believe it's around 50% of it is spoken for before we even get a chance to deal with it. It's school taxes, it's government, it's requisitions from the county for fire services. A lot of that is already written in stone. The budget that we get to play with for maintenance and staff and such is actually only about 50% of what is collected. I've learned that people are pretty happy with the way things are now, and they aren't looking for big changes. They're looking for tweaks and little changes here and there, absolutely. But for the most part, keep the grass mowed, keep the roads maintained, keep the community safe through some of the emergency services and such. Some of the challenges that are big that are coming up, I agree with Paul that some of the stuff that we have to work with. we're a lake community, water levels. Yes, we got some challenges there. There is some movement, but it is moving at a very slow pace. The boat launch, there's some options that we're looking into that, and I'm sure we'll get to address that later on. And we're also working with 5 other communities. And I think in the past, we've had some challenges with some of those different communities. I think we're starting to build a better relationship. And I will continue to keep listening to the people in the village and take action when needed. I will build on, if elected, I will build on the successes that we've initiated so far and keep them going. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you. So now we're going to move on to questions. As I've mentioned, we've done these randomly. So we can pass the microphone to Donna, please. So the first question is, what is the #1 issue you would like to see addressed for our community? So just what do you think is the most important issue?
I think we need to ask the people if they really want like arena-style community center, or something that they can hold a lot of dances and events in.
Excellent. Thank you. Barry?
That's a tough one to answer because #1, I mean, I would say, what is the top 5? I mean, there's more than one. Lake level, pick a whole bunch. I've made some notes here. Taxes, lake level, road access, gravel, dust, et cetera, et cetera. I couldn't pick one. I think we have to balance somebody's mentioned, Leona, I think, the needs and wants. We want a lot of things. We can't afford a lot of things, but we hope to do what we need and have enough money to do what we need. And Dan said, discretionary spending, I think you mentioned to me, is not as big as you think it is. So I think it's financial control, financial stability, and sustainability for the village.
Thank you. Dan?
I think we need to continue to maintain what we are doing, but also we are a lake community. It would be boat launch and water levels.
Leona?
I have to agree with Dan. This is a lake community, so that lake level and the boat launch and the village that we live in and how we get here are priorities. So transportation is also something that needed to be added to that.
Excellent. Paul?
For myself, I think the spin on it is what do we have the most agency with? And when I think about that, I would say I mentioned the right-of-way lease agreement with the Alberta government. Our current one, it was a 20 or 25-year lease. It expired in 2003. We currently don't have a lease with the government. And how that is managed, I think, is a very big issue. And getting it right will make a big difference going forward. I know there's all sorts of things in terms of how we can use the lake recreationally, what's allowed, what's not allowed. Getting that something that is workable for protecting the environment, protecting the lake, but also protecting the recreational use that we get out of it, I think is a very important thing.
Excellent. Thank you. Now the microphone can go to Barry. If elected, what do you feel your biggest challenge will be?
Actually, I've thought a lot about that question. Having served on council before, I think the biggest challenge will be quickly getting up to speed with what's been going on in the village, working on a top 5, top 10 priority list, and doing that as quickly as possible. That's it.
Leona?
Because I think we all have a certain amount of expertise, Barry, I think we can catch up fairly quickly. I think for us as a village, one of our biggest challenges is always going to be fiscal. Do we have enough money to do the things that we want? And it's also control. As we sit on all these other boards like waste management and water and dealing with the lake levels and everything else, there's only so much that we can do as a council, but we can make our voices heard. And that, I believe, is going to be a challenge as we move forward.
Thank you. Dan?
I agree with Leona. I think the biggest challenge that we're going to have is fiscal, is to keep the budget in check and not increase taxes any more than we absolutely have to maintain. And like I said, we don't have a control over about 50% of it, but the 50% that we do have, we got to keep it basic because we're not going to spend on projects.
Paul?
I think for me, and what I've seen over the last year, one of the biggest challenges is just there's so many things out there that are opportunities that we want to get at, but in the limited time and availability and budget, what can you tackle within the short period of time? So I think a lot of it is really getting a handle on what are the priorities, what are the most important things that we're focusing our time on, so that we're making sure that we're moving forward with the most important things, both short-term and long-term, so that we keep moving forward.
Donna? Thanks, Paul.
Yes, I think one of the biggest challenges would be to try and get more, excuse me, I have to do this. To get more grants for the community so that we can do some big projects. And I mean, there's a lot of options available in terms of approaching large corporations, which happens a lot in the big city. And been involved in some of that myself. So anyway, that's the biggest challenge, is trying to get more money into the community.
Thank you. You can pass that microphone to Leona, please. Do you deem the boat launch to be an important asset to our community? And if so, what would be your plans to make the boat launch usable again?
As a boat owner, yep, I do believe it's an important asset. And you take a look at the number of people that actually have watercraft within this village. We all want access to that lake. It's one of the reasons that we moved out here. As to what it would make it feasible and should it be rebuilt where it's at, I know that Dan, you said that council has looked at different options. I think that's what we have to do. We have to look at what different options are out there. Does it need to be moved? Is it in the most appropriate place? Is there another alternative that we can maybe partner with another community to make that launch something that is usable, that we're not constantly having to go back and revisit it every year? I look forward to what you guys have already figured out and researched, and hopefully that will be a solution shortly.
Thank you. You can pass to Paul. And if anybody at any time needs me to repeat the question, just let me know.
Absolutely. The boat launch is a very important priority. In my mind, the biggest problem with the boat launch is actually the lake level, which is something that we're actively working on. But I think until the lake level is building back up either naturally or through the stabilization project, I think we're somewhat limited in what can be done at that point. In terms of enhancing the boat launch, both for protecting from the ice damage that's happened repeatedly over the last few years in the winter, being able to manage capacity, particularly as Bar W probably continues to get busier with time. That's a very important thing. One of the things that we just did in the last council meeting was direct administration to engage an engineering firm to give us some preliminary ideas on what different options could be for permanent and long-term fixes and what sort of budget that might be on that. So, I can throw out ideas on it, but I think at this point, the best thing we can do is get that report, initial report back from the experts on it, and then look at what might be the most feasible, budget-friendly, and where we might be able to get capital funding for some of the work that comes out of that. But as I said, I think the lake level is the most important piece of that, and that's probably 50% of the battle right there.
Donna.
New question.
Thanks, Paul. Yeah, for sure. Do you deem the boat launch to be an important asset to our community? And if so, what would be your plans to make the boat launch usable again?
Is that what we just asked?
Donna asked to repeat it. You asked to repeat it, right, Donna?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure if it was the previous question or not. I do believe the boat launch is very important. We are a lake community and people would like to be able to go out and use their boats and fish and just enjoy the lake. Plans for it, Paul mentioned that engineering report, I think, is a really good idea. I think we can keep our minds open, and instead of thinking narrowly about there's only one option, we have to look at all the options. And we do have to wait till we know what's going on with that lake level. Maybe we'll just get a downpour from now till September.
Thank you. Barry is next.
What everybody else said, yes, the boat launch is number one. We're all here because of the lake. I don't necessarily agree that the lake level is the problem causing the boat launch. We've had problems with the boat launch forever. Every time the ice blows in, pushes up the thing, we have to get federal approval to fix it. We can't go in the water to fix it. It's an ongoing thing. So even if we had the perfect boat launch, it wouldn't work because the lake level's too low. So, but it's absolutely important. We've got to fix it. We've got to at least find something that it can sustain in the ice coming in every year and not be destroyed every year and have to deal with this every year.
Thank you, Dan.
Yes, it is important. As I said in my opening remarks, I think it is one of the key things because we are a lake community. I don't think we should keep attempting to repair it. That's kind of given the lake levels and the ice and all those challenges, it's not working very well. I was hoping I'd go before Paul because the engineering report is a big thing that we've requested. And they will be looking at different options, but I can tell you it will be expensive, no matter what we do. A simple fix is not going to work. So we would have to look at significant grant money to deal with that. We also have looked into, and we're getting some information on a portable dock. Buck Lake, I believe, uses one, and we're trying to get some information on that. I've even looked at an amphibious launcher that you could push, trailers out. So there are, everybody wants to put their boats in the water. Most of our boats are sitting on the beach or sitting in our backyards. So I think, unfortunately, it's going to be expensive, and it's not going to be a simple fix.
Thank you. All right, so the next question will go to Paul. So based on the questions that we've received, the lake is a big priority. What immediate actions will you take if elected to prevent irreversible damage to the lake?
I think this comes back to what I've already talked about a couple of times. Our lease agreements with the lake, or not with the lake, with the Alberta government that are in the process of being renewed. We've got a draft shoreline management plan that we've done an initial review of. It's one of the first things that'll be coming towards the new council. We'll be reviewing that and understanding that and then negotiating that. I think the second thing, somewhat related to that, again, it's coming back to the lake level. So I think it's Gull Lake that has their plan for the lake stabilization while protecting from the Prussian carp invasive species that they're just waiting for final approval from the Alberta Minister of the Environment, and then they can get theirs going. And then I think conceivably within a couple of years we could get it going here at Buffalo Lake again as well, and get some water from the Red Deer River pumped into here, which I think will certainly help. So those are my 2 points for tackling that.
Thank you. Next, Dan.
I think the word immediate was in that question, and I don't think there is going to be any immediate solutions. I agree with Paul, you well said. Pumping to keep the lake level. Pumping water is not going to raise the lake level. It will keep it from going down further. The rate of evaporation and the rate of pumping, it would just maintain the current level. Nature is the only thing that's going to fill the lake. Gull Lake is and has gotten approval to start the process. Their pilot program was successful in keeping the carp out of they were using the blind man, I believe. But we would have to see if that is successful. I think we can start some things, and we have with the other 5 communities that are around the lake. We have started those discussions. There is 2 different commissions that work on that. And we are going to go look at the pumps and see if they can be, recommissioned. But that, we won't even get approval this year. We may get approval next year, and the pumping would be, it's not a short-term fix. It's a longer-term fix. But I think all we can do is keep prodding and keep moving forward. That's about all we can do with the 5 communities. The Alberta government actually has the ultimate decision to pump or not pump.
Thank you, Leona.
I agree, immediate is one of those words that is not going to be in the picture right at this moment. What Dan said, we're not the only people that are concerned about this lake. And so we do have to keep working collaboratively and cooperatively with the other communities that are around here. Pushing the envelope a little bit, making sure that the applications are made, making sure that we do know that we are ready to put those pumps in place. What are the barriers that are going to cause us not to be able to pump? And what can we do to make sure that maybe that process is brought a little bit quicker and a little bit more effectively? It's going to be a multi-pronged approach, and it's one of those things that needs to be a priority of this council and a priority of everyone who lives around this lake.
Thank you. Barry?
At the risk of repeating what everybody said, the lake level's been a problem for some time. We know that. The stabilization program that Don Getty started years and years ago, is, to Dan's point, was to stabilize the level, not raise it. So we need a lot of rain. We need to continue to lobby government, work with the other communities, as everybody else says, and stay on top of it, because it could be 2-3 years before we get enough rain to even raise the level. And the damage, the shoreline, we're getting lots of beach out of this, but that's about it. So again, we just have to be vigilant and stay on top of it.
Thank you, Donna.
I agree with Dan and Paul on this. I've watched the council meetings with a great deal of interest. I usually watch every single one. So I have some idea of the amount of work that they've already put into this. I too agree that it's not going to be immediate, and we might be looking at even 3 years before something starts. And I'm just hoping that we're at the end of a dry cycle and starting a really wet cycle, not only for the lake, but for my trees as well.
30. Excellent, thank you. I'll just, on the question, it wasn't necessarily about immediate solutions, but more immediate actions. Okay, so the next question, we will start with Paul. And so the recent fire in White Sands, or fires in White Sands, has been an eye-opener as well as a traumatic experience for many residents. What do you see as the leadership role of council in this type of event?
I think the best thing that council can do to help on that falls on the education side of things and awareness. I know had the fortunate early on after the last by-election, there was an annual conference of summer villages of Alberta that was fortunate enough to go to. And one of the presentations there was on the FireSmart program, and tons of great ideas and great advice on that. I think that there's a lot of learnings that we can communicate out to the residents. One of the things I think that we can do a better job on, and we're going to look at improving it, is we have our newsletters that go out monthly or quarterly, just to be adding more content to them in terms of here are things that you can do around it. We're talking about organizing a FireSmart day out here where we'll do an education thing, have a dumpster here. I think this was some of Dan's, give credit for some of the ideas that he's got on that. People can work together and clean up brush and bring it here and get it all hauled away. And, I think just awareness, particularly, we don't think of this as being we didn't previously think of this as being a high fire hazard area, but, that poplar fluff is just like gasoline and went up so much. So doing the awareness campaign, saying when that poplar fluff is here, be very, very careful, water it down, don't be doing things that could be sparking it. And really education awareness, I think, is the biggest thing that we can do to get started.
Excellent. It's not just to fire. That was an example. So not just specific to fires, but any type of.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think I'm out of time.
Yeah,
so.
perfect. Thank you.
Lost my chance.
I just sort of. Okay, Donna.
Well, I think that council did handle it fairly well in getting maybe individual councillors not acting like they are a council member, but like Dan getting the fire marshal out to talk to us, and having the fire marshal out some other times as well, I believe has happened. And the community did get together to set up an emergency response group from the last information meeting, I believe.
Donna, I'm not going to just kind of restate the question a little bit. As a leader in the community, when something like that's tragic or bad or terrible happens in a leadership role, what do you think what should be done there?
Well, and I think that Dan did the best thing that could be done. And I think too that we as individuals do take some responsibility being rural.
Excellent. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you for restating that, because I probably would have repeated it as well. I think the biggest thing we can do is support the community. I think an example was the fire, but also act as kind of a communication center that would, it couldn't happen on a weekend because the office is closed, so we'd have to be careful, being as the sole source. But emergencies like fire or flooding, I know that was one that they were practicing, the emergency preparedness. But educating and communications is probably the role with the county or with the council at this point.
Thank you. Barry?
Yeah, a leadership role. So regardless of what happens, whether it's a fire or something, I think the council members, mayor, whoever, has to communicate quickly and effectively to everybody in the community. And we have to have a system in place. I know council's working on that because I've read that in the minutes recently, that they're working on a type of communication to quickly get information out to all the ratepayers and the people that live here. So I think that's the leadership role we need to take as councillors, is to make sure we communicate quickly and effectively with all ratepayers.
Thank you. Leona?
I think Barry hit the nail on the head. Communication is one of the most important things that you can do. And how you get that communication out to you as ratepayers. it doesn't matter whether it's a fire, whether it's a flood, whether there's a windstorm that comes through and there's trees that come down. There has to be a very straightforward line of communication and information to all of you as ratepayers so that there is a sense of calm, there is a sense that something is being done, and that if there is something that you can do to help, certainly we'll make sure that that is available as well. Leadership is about taking responsibility. Leadership is about trying to inform everyone and make sure that that sense of calm is there, especially in a small community like this.
Thank you. Paul, do you want to, is there anything else you want to add to that question, just now that the interpretation's different?
I think I would restate what a lot of the other candidates have said, so I stand with that.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, so the next question will go to Barry to start. Grants are a priority. How would you envision the behind-the-scenes researching of all the available grants and the communication of such grants to the residents?
Very good question. Grants have always been something we've strived to stay on top of. Our past CAOs, I know Melissa, we can't sustain the village without grants, let's face it. We need that cash to do projects. And I think that I've not personally been involved in applications for grants. When I was on council, we went after everything we could. But at the end of the day, what I don't think we did do to the question is we didn't communicate. I don't remember communicating those grants to the villagers. It's easier now because I think all the minutes everything's on the website. I mean, I went back and read through 10 months worth of council meetings, but it's easier now. But there must be, we have to come up with a better way to communicate that. We've got this much money to do this. This is what you asked for. This is what we're going to give you.
Thank you. Leona?
I think the first thing you have to look at when you're looking at grants is what exactly is needed and what is available out there for what we as a community want. Sourcing out those grants is not only the responsibility of council, but it's also the responsibility of the staff that we have. That is exactly why they're in place, not just to do the administration, but to also help council with the research. With that, I do have to say one thing. I know Donna mentioned it earlier, chasing corporate money. Everybody is chasing corporate money all the time. And is it available? Yeah, it may be, but not necessarily to a smaller community like this. So we, again, have to be realistic in what we can go after, what is out there, and not only federally, but provincially, and maybe even locally.
Thank you. Paul?
I think when it comes to grants, and they certainly are important, I think that the majority of the capital expenditures that there have been since I've been on council have been sourced through grants. And so it's an extremely important piece of it. I think what's really important, though, is that, as Leona said, that we have a sense of what our priorities are and what our long-term vision is, what we want to create, and then find the grants that support it rather than the other way around, saying there's all these grants, let's try to spend it, because they're very specific on how they're spent. It's not just, you can't just use the grants for general expenditures. I think there's potentially some big dollar things in front of us. The boat access that we talked about. Drainage is something that we've been looking at a little bit. That will be more of a focus again going forward as look at flood prevention areas through the village. That there's a number of areas that are quite prone to it, but it's going to be something that if we act on it, could be a couple $1 million by the time we're said and done. So really making a sense on what we need to do, and then finding the grants that go after that would be my approach on that.
Thank you. Donna?
Well, the grants, this is a bit of a bugaboo with me because we missed out on a really good grant from ATCO for municipalities like ours, and they would have put $10,000 to $15,000 into a solar system for us. And that would have saved, if I could have done that with my house, I would have saved the total cost of electricity that would have paid back all the cost of electricity, like it would have put a credit in, and then you would have had a credit for the winter time when your solar panels didn't work as well. And I think we've missed it. And I did bring it up, and I wasn't received gently. But, you know, we have to keep our eyes open for these things, because now that was a corporate grant, and it was advertised quite a bit in certain media, not all media. So I really think that we need to do a little more work on the grant side of things.
Thank you. Dan?
I think Paul and Leona said it well. What are the priorities? And then look for the grants. I think we have left that up to the CAO and administration for the most part. And we've looked at, you know, the things that the community has identified. Some of the longer term things like the lake level, the pumping, that's going to cost money. Can you get a grant for that? The boat launch, that's going to cost lots of money. Can we get a grant for that? I think if those are truly our priorities, then let's focus on that as opposed to, I've been in business for 20-some, 30 years, and I've been in recycling. It's all good news stuff, and you would think that there's lots of grants out there. And there is, but you can waste a lot of time chasing your tail because you're chasing the grant and you can spend all your time doing it. I think you need to find out what the priorities are and then look at the grants for that and see if those are available. And there are some of those, you know, it has to be a major project, for example.
Thank you. Leona, how do you feel about bylaw review committees? And for that matter, committees in general for various projects? So bylaw and then committees in general.
I know when I was on the Stettler Town Council, that was something that we always looked at, was the different bylaws that were already in place. Can they be improved on? What is the direction that the community wants to go in? I think that is something that has to be ongoing, and I know you as a council have been working on that and have been working on updating those bylaws. You can't just do it and then leave it for 20 years. It's something that you have to do on a regular basis. Take a look at it. If something isn't working in the community, take the time to look at the bylaw and find out whether or not it's meeting your needs. Committees are important. Not everyone can do everything all the time. You have to be able to delegate to different people, either off council or through volunteer boards or through community boards that are with other communities to move forward. I'm not an engineer. I cannot give you all the answers for engineering, but maybe someone who is can come up with those. And can we involve them in the process? That's where you need to go. Council is a facilitator, not the end-all and be-all.
Excellent, thank you. Donna, I'm just going to repeat the question. How do you feel about bylaw review committees, and for that matter, committees in general?
I agree with Leona on the bylaw review. It has to be a continual thing to not make it onerous, because if you do it once every 20 years, then you've got a big pile of work ahead of you. And if you just do a few every year, you're not going to be as overwhelmed by it. I also think that we need a Ways and Means Committee like the County of Stettler has, that looks at some of these big picture things that need to be looked at. And they're the committee that put in the barrier at Bayview. But I've looked at some of the things that they've worked on, and I've thought that we need that for maybe looking at reviewing the roles and policies of council and how it interacts with the rest, and how the CAO interacts and follows what the council wants done. You know, maybe setting up a pay scale. There's a lot of different things that could be done in this community through committee. And it would be best by committee because people have a better idea of what jobs are worth and what the effects of the bylaws are.
Excellent, thank you. Barry?
We have to remember that the bylaws are all there. Most of them are all there because somebody did something wrong. So we had to make a bylaw. My son, my family's probably, a few of them were probably responsible for, but just because they were relevant then doesn't mean they're relevant now. So continue a review of bylaws, yes, absolutely important. And there's a lot of expertise in our village, and a review committee, absolutely. Let's get more. It's one way for council to get everybody's opinion and some experts that use their, not necessarily going to use their ideas, don't get me wrong, but it's just more heads are better than one. And just committees in general, absolutely. Again, more heads are better than one, and the council will not be their end all. Melissa, Aaron, they can't come up with all the ideas. We have to help them.
Thank you, Dan.
Well, I'm going to liven it up a little bit. A bylaw review committee, I don't think is needed. I think we have undertaken to review the bylaws on an ongoing basis, and as things come up, we adjust, we make decisions, we make tweaks, as opposed to an exercise that just stirs everybody up. I think that committees in general are good if you have a specialized reason for them. Like we had some recreation proposals that were put forward, so we struck a committee of the public, and I chaired that committee, and we got feedback from the community. I think feedback is important. I think you choose to elect us to get the information, to be informed, and to make decisions. I don't think we need to, people come to the lake to enjoy it. They don't necessarily want to sit on a bunch of committees, and people are busy.
Thanks, Paul.
What I'm going to say largely matches with what Dan said. I think I'll start with committees, the question about committees in general. I think they certainly have their place, and I think they can be very valuable as a means for getting involvement and for getting community feedback. But I am aware that if you try to get too much out of it, I think that I think that you'd run out of, you'd have difficulty staffing it, particularly for long-standing committees. So certainly look at it where the opportunity is there and the interest is there on particular issues. To do too many of them or continual committees, I think would be not very successful. As far as the bylaws, I think the way we've been doing it has actually been quite effective, working with administration for them to bring forward revisions to the bylaws, and then for us to have a good discussion in council has been working quite well. So I would advocate for continuing that same process.
Excellent, thank you. So I'm going to move on to some questions that are coming in now, and I'm definitely seeing a theme here. So we're going to start with Dan, and it's about road maintenance. How do you prioritize road maintenance, and what do you propose that council does to help fix our roads all season, like summer and winter?
Hi, that's a tough one. I think we have...
They're a tough crowd.
Yeah, they're a tough crowd. I think our change on our snow policy, that was a start. That wasn't working, or was working sort of, kind of. So we changed that policy. Summer it's dust control, and winter it's snow. That's pretty basic stuff. We've got our maintenance to spend more time filling potholes. You're not going to pave it. You're not going to pave White Sands. That's just not going to happen. And you're not going to get snow removal every day when there's a centimeter of snow. We live out in the country, and you need to be prepared to drive in that. So I think our roads are pretty good. Internally, I think we have something between, depends who you ask, somewhere between 11 kilometers and 22 kilometers of roads. And I think they do a great job. So continue.
Thank you, Barry.
I agree with Dan. Dust control, potholes, snow removal. We live in the country, we have gravel roads, we're gonna deal with all of those. And I think honestly, the village is doing a pretty good job. I've noticed Alan and the tractor going around filling potholes, the washboard. It happens on the county roads, it happens everywhere. So it's just an ongoing project, and I think we just gotta live with it, and we just gotta continue to do what we're doing, spending as much of our maintenance people's time as we can, fixing potholes, plowing snow, et cetera.
Leona.
Largely, I agree with Dan and Barry. The only thing, and I do want to commend Alan, he has certainly made lots of improvements in our maintenance. I want to take this a little bit of a different direction. I believe our village roads are excellent for a village. Yeah, we're not going to pave it. I think we do need to work with the county about the transportation to our village. And that is something that I think is in the works. It's something that I believe that we need to work towards with that county and ensure that we have viable and good access to our village.
Thank you. Donna?
Better ask the question again.
Yeah, I worded it in my own way. Road maintenance is a bit, where would you place road maintenance in terms of your priorities, and how would you propose that we take care of our roads, both winter and summer?
Okay, I think what's happening in the wintertime is probably pretty good, realizing, of course, we do live within a budget. The summertime, I think sometimes in some of the high traffic areas, they could lay a little water down once in a while just to prevent some of the more expensive houses being covered in dust. I've seen it quite a few. I saw it last year. It was a lot worse. So I know it's improved this year. Again, I want to commend Al on his wonderful work that he's doing. I noticed that he's very, very thorough in his job. But yeah, that would be my suggestions.
Thank you. Paul?
Road maintenance is probably one of the biggest controllable expenses that we have for the village. When I say controllable, it's meaning something that we are in control of the expenditures on it. And so I think you do have to be really careful because you can spend a ton of money on it. I think being clear on what our expectations are has been a big step. So, getting the snow removal policy updated and clarified really helped a lot so that, that Melissa and Aaron can clearly communicate to maintenance when and when not to be plowing in the wintertime. Dust control, again, everybody wants it, but it is very expensive to do it. So we did some limited dust control this year, evaluate how successful it is and consider whether or not to do more of it on some of the secondary roads next year. But, realistically, I think when we're looking at trying to control budget, finding what is the best and then living with it, that not being perfect, I think is an important thing that we all have to be willing to accept here. Again, we are a rural community, we are gravel roads. We have to live with a little bit of the inconvenience of that and not place our expectations too high, I think is really where I come at it.
Excellent, thank you. So the next question will start with Barry, and it's another question that's come in. Where do you sit with respect to, again, your priority on keeping the beaches clean? And how would you propose that to be done? Barry? Clean like rocks, weeds, grass.
The beach has been an issue for years. Every year, things wash up. We've had different programs over the years where people could clear the front of their beach area where they hang out and pile up the weeds, and Alan would come by, pick them all up. I think that worked pretty effectively. I think, to Paul's point, we have limited dollars to spend. We have to pick and choose very carefully. Personally, the area of our beach that my family goes to, we clean it up ourselves. We go down there, and if there's a mess, we take rakes and we clean it up and we haul it away in the quad. I don't condone that for everybody to do that, but at the end of the day, I like the idea of the village contributing, but I think we have to take care of it ourselves as well. Take care of your own little bit of beach if you can.
Thank you, Leona.
I guess I'm just going to go back to the fact that this is a lake community, and beach access, beach cleanliness, beach availability is one thing that we all particularly want. I know that we don't have that right-of-way agreement in place, and that is something that, as a council, we need to make sure that we go forward with that. But any policies that we come up with, it needs to be fair across the board. It can't be just beach access 7 and beach access 5, but forget about 3 and 4. And there needs to be a common sense approach to it. I know that there are lots of rules that are black and white with environment, but I also know that there's lots of communities around this lake that take the time and the pride that is needed to maintain the beaches that are within the communities that they live. So I'm hoping that that's something that we can also take a look at.
Thank you. Dan?
Yes. Number one, there are restrictions from Alberta Environment about what we can and cannot do. One of the things we need to do is push harder, and we are, to work on that right-of-way agreement about what we can and cannot do. Picking up weed piles is one of the things that we have been doing and we continue. So it is trickier on 3 and 4, by the way. I got a call from Melissa saying, how do I get down there to pick up those piles? So we came up with a small compromise. I, like Barry, rake in front of my area, but holy cow, given our expanding beaches, Debbie thinks I'm crazy because I go and rake and then I'll, a couple hours here and there. It's a big beach to rake now. So there is a lot of weeds, and this year in particular has been a bad year for that. And we do try to keep our individually, asking council to do it or maintenance to do it is just cost prohibitive. And other communities, they do, even Roshan, they do a little bit of raking in front. I don't know if that's technically really allowed. In fact, I'm pretty sure it's not. But so you have to be careful. You don't want to, you want to push the envelope, but maybe not go quite that far.
Thanks, Dan. Paul?
I think, everything has to be looked at from the view of shoreline protection and environmental stewardship of it. I think there is a place where we can find the balance and negotiate the balance with Alberta Environment of preserving the recreational value and use of the lake while giving Alberta Environment confidence that we are managing the environmental side of it properly. One of the things that we are looking at again is tackling is more clarity on quad and OHV use on the shoreline. It's clear that recreational use along the shoreline isn't going to be tolerated, but when we're dragging lifts in and out through the year, how can we make sure that we're doing that while still not causing environmental damage or getting to the point where we'll be shut down, not allowed to do anything on it. So, really, I think taking a view of it where environmental stewardship is first and foremost in our considerations, and then finding the reasonable solutions that allow us to have the recreational use and the fine beach that we're all looking for down there.
Thank you. Donna?
Well, I do agree with both Paul and Dan about the beach, the environmental stewardship, but there is something I'd like to add to that, and that would be that we should screen off the areas or put ropes around the areas where some of the rarer birds are nesting in the springs, so that they're not disturbed until they leave their nesting area. I've seen that on the beaches in California on my travels, and they actually will block off an area and say golden plover nesting site, and please do not disturb, right beside the beware shark sign. But I think we could probably look at maybe posting areas that are environmentally sensitive in the spring.
Excellent, thank you. Just maybe even just a break for a minute. Last time there were so many questions that came in from the audience, and I'm not getting very many questions, so if you have any, send them to Andrea. Okay, here's a different question that came in through the website. What are your thoughts and opinions regarding bylaw changes to encourage a wider range of home building sizes? And we'll start with Leona, and I can repeat it if needed.
Okay, I'm going to have to admit, I don't know exactly what the bylaw in the village of White Sands is regarding home sizes. So that would be something that I would have to educate myself on. However, I still go back to the common sense idea that this is a lake village. We're all using it for different purposes. Some of us live here, some of us are only here for 2 or 3 weeks a year. We can't expect every lot and every home to be of the same size, but we can expect that every lot is looked after with pride, that we don't have unsightly things that are within our village, and that we as a council and we as villagers take pride in where we are. It is a summer village, and it's not something that I think needs to be regulated as much as maybe this question is indicating.
Thank you. Next is Paul. And let me know if you want me to repeat it.
I think the land use bylaw in terms of building sizes is already quite flexible in terms of what it allows. If I'm not mistaken, I think 700 square feet is the minimum building size that is in the bylaw, and up to, quite large coverage within a lot. So it already does allow for a large range of different building types that people may want to do. In terms of allowing, I think there's lots of very nice homes that have gone up over the years. So I think on the upper end, we're all right that way. On the lower end, we want to encourage building of, reasonable value homes, because that's really where our tax base comes in, and the more properties that are out there, the less our individual property taxes are each year. So that's a good thing for the community. That being said, there is provision, and I know we recently did through the Municipal Planning Commission approve a smaller house than what was in the bylaws. For a very specific circumstance that made sense in that one. So there is provision where it makes sense to make exceptions for good reason, without necessarily having to make a whole new set of bylaws on it. So personally, I think we're pretty good that way.
Excellent, thank you. Donna?
Well, as costs go up, You know, I think we're going to see less and less building. You know, the best way to control building costs is to build small. And I just don't understand why we don't do like tiny homes here, because a lot of people like them and like living in them, partly due to the cost of heating, electricity, and building them. But we do have bylaws, and so far we are going in the direction of following those bylaws. It might be something we might want to look at as a community. Who knows?
Barry?
I agree with Paul, because we spent a lot of time years ago really fine-tuning the land use bylaw with regards to setbacks, minimum sizes, clearances, but we had flexibility back then, and I think we still have flexibility, to Paul's point. When I was on council, there was somebody applied to build a high garage because he had a tower on his boat that didn't come down. And I think we approved it. We said, yeah, that makes sense. Sure, we can do that. But I think they're pretty good. Tweaks here and there maybe, but I agree with the bylaws as they are.
Thank you, Dan.
I'm just going to reiterate what everybody else pretty much said, but yes, there are minimum, I didn't know this, there are minimum size on a small lot, and there's maximum size on a small lot and a large lot. These are standards, and they were put in place to provide some stability and some standards when, you know, the Wild West was going on. I think the bylaws are good. I do question them sometimes, and that's what MPC is for, and that's what variances are for. So it gives us the opportunity to look at an individual case and say, yes, that makes sense in that case. And I don't think you need to change the bylaws so that it opens everything, because then you don't have that due diligence to look at that specific case.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, I'm going to take another one that came in. It's a topic that we talk about a bit. And we'll start with Paul. What will you do about 10 years old, young kids driving golf carts or other vehicles as a counselor?
Well, I think that we have done that through the golf cart bylaw that's implemented. As it stands right now, for the golf carts, the golf cart needs to be permitted, and the operator of it needs to have at least a Class 7 learner's permit. So, you know, nobody under 14 should be driving that, and anybody that is driving it should have shown that they know the rules of the road already at that point. In terms of if it is still happening out there, you know, really that is really enforcement with RCMP. I guess to back up, education, which I think you know, there has been that getting out there of, you know, here's the bylaw. It's been in the newsletter. We're making people aware of it. We're asking people to come in and register their golf carts. If it continues to be a problem, I guess that comes down to enforcement, which would be the RCMP. They have reviewed the bylaw, and they are in support of it, and they're aware of it. So, you know, you hope that most people will self-enforce on it, but that is what we can turn to now that we have a bylaw, if it is continuing to be a problem. I mean, the last thing any of us want to see is somebody get hurt or killed. And that's why we have this in place now.
Excellent, thank you, Donna.
Yes, I was really glad to see that council was able to get that golf cart bylaw in the process of being a functional bylaw in our community. I do know, because I do see kids on their golf carts, and I don't even know if I see the permit on the golf cart. And so that leads to a couple of points. At the information meeting, the RCMP were there, and after they were there, and I had questioned about, you know, golf carts in my neighborhood. They went and did their little enforcement run and educated the people there, because I noticed the difference afterwards. So I was pretty happy about that, because the last thing I want to see is some kid with broken bones or a broken neck on the road. But I am really curious as to what the size of the permits is. And the other thing is, how can people get a permit when the office isn't even open on Fridays late when they come in, or on a Saturday in the morning? Important question, how can they get a permit if they're not here?
Thank you, Barry.
Safety, absolutely, but we need to self-police this. I think some of you were at the information meeting and you heard an officer say the last thing he wants to be doing is busting 10-year-olds in our village. So we have to take care of it ourselves as much as we can within safety. Education, but at the end of the day, I've seen a lot of golf carts ride around in this village that don't have a permit on them. And that's been in place now for a few months. So I think we maybe could communicate that a little stronger and say, hey, this is the rules. And yeah, ask Sergeant Russell to send a guy out once in a while just to educate.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you, thank you. We're working through quite a few, oh, geez, I did that last year too. Not to you though. Thanks, Dan, sorry.
Kids driving golf carts. Education, and I think we've done a good job of that as far as requiring, setting up that golf cart bylaw and requiring them to have an operator's license. So education on our level. And second, we have asked the enforcement to use education and warnings, and we've asked them to be gentle but firm. So if we start to see it, we can make that call again and say, you know, we need to see your presence, and their presence wouldn't be handcuffing any kids, but it would be to tell them they require a license on a permit on the golf cart, and they require the operator must have a valid operator's license, which can be a learner's license.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, so
You missed her.
I'm so sorry.
That's okay. Do you know what? I'm just going to take a little bit of a different approach. Since council has instituted that golf cart bylaw, I have seen more respectful driving out of our kids in this community, to the point where, and sometimes I have a hard time figuring out whether it's a 10-year-old or a 14-year-old, but they've actually pulled over and allowed my vehicle to pass. So I think what we're doing is working. I think what we are doing is responsible, and I love the idea of the education. But education isn't just for the kids, it's also for the parents. And so I really believe that if we see something, and if we see a golf cart that isn't licensed or permitted, have a discussion with your neighbor. Maybe they don't know.
That's it.
You got us all.
You got me gun shy now. It's hot up here. I imagine you guys are hot too. Yeah, I sure am. Okay, so I think we've covered lots of different topics and themes. So we're gonna do one more question, and then we'll go through our wrap up. So if there's anything that anybody has that they want to push a question forward, we're working towards the end. I think we can end early today. Okay, so this question will go to Dan. The existing hall size and functionality could appear inadequate for present and future purposes. Where would it sit? A revitalization of the hall or a bigger hall in your list of priorities?
There is a cost factor. There's also a significant cost factor. There's also grants. So we could look at it again for the 4 times a year that we typically need more space, you'd have to look at the return on investment for that, whether that's an appropriate use of funds. And, but it would allow other activities, perhaps weddings and such. So it's not off the list. I don't think it's a high priority at this time.
Thank you. Donna?
Yes, well, I did mention about a hall and grants. But that would require fitting into the whole part of the vision for the community that we want. And do we want a facility where we can have dances, music groups coming and playing, like bluegrass groups or whatever? And do we want to have those type of festivals in our village? I mean, that's another question in itself. But definitely, I think that there is a 50-50 chance of maybe looking at a new hall if we can source some grants and maybe source some corporate funding and have a facility here that's really good for the people, especially in the summertime. And maybe that facility can be big enough that it could have some extra offices in it. And it could be like a Quonset hut, which would be reasonably priced compared to what they did the last time for a quote on a hall.
Thank you, Leona.
Oh, okay. We have a beautiful facility here already. It has lots of room. It needs some tweaking. It needs to maybe take a look at that garage space, which is no longer utilized. Maybe there's some reorganization as to moving the kitchen. The Hall Society has had lots of ideas about it. There are also options that are out there, for example, the hill back there. Can that hill be graded back farther so that more space can be made? Could there be a tent that's put up for those 4 times a year that we need more space? There's lots of options. I think the priority is there. It just comes down to fiscal responsibility and utilizing the spaces that we have.
Thank you. Paul?
I agree a lot with what Leona said there. I think this really actually is, for the size of our community, this is a wonderful space here right now. We need to make sure that we're continuing to maintain and preserve it in the state that it's at. I know the Hall Society did present a wish list to council this last year, which we looked at really closely, and we're still have on the list there. And some of the enhancements that I think are reasonable to look at are the tent, like Leona mentioned. Making more usable space out there is something that has come up. It's not an easy answer, particularly. Again, when we look at drainage, when we look at making sure we don't have a wall that people fall off of in the hill over there. But I think looking at how we can kind of build the space out of the hall, I think, is a great idea. And I think of some sort of a town hall concept where this whole space out here is made into a bit of a village square. I think is really something to look at. Again, it's figuring out the long-term vision and then getting a plan to get to it. I think is where we want to be. But I do see this hall in its current state being an important part of it, and not necessarily something that we would need to tear down and make bigger at this point in time.
Thank you. Barry?
We've been talking about expanding the hall for a lot of years. Every time we talk about it, even when I was on council, we evaluated the cost. To Dan's point, it's very expensive. And we even looked at just a small expansion, just to knock a wall out. It's a lot of money. So I would support it if we could get grant money to do it, or we could do it at absolute minimum cost. And I think that's impossible, to be honest with you, because that's a relative term, absolute minimum cost. I think it would be a grant. Do I necessarily think we want a hall big enough to rent out to people to have weddings and dances? No, I don't. This is our village. I want it to stay the way it is. I want it quiet. So I don't necessarily want a big commercial rental space that there's weddings going to be at every weekend. my opinion.
Excellent, thank you. I think that just in light of the fact that we're the Hall Society, that question came in through the website, I suppose, yeah. You know where we sit, but that was a website. That was a website. So yeah, let's maybe work on to a wrap up. If no more questions are coming forward, we're gonna do it in the opposite order that we started. So Dan, you're up, 2 minutes.
Sorry, I had to write something down. I've been writing down my questions and my responses so that what I say or respond, so that I can make that commitment to, and I believe we've given honest responses, so that when we take action, it can be with the feedback of the community and the questions and the answers. I believe I'm a good listener, and I am action-oriented. In fact, my wife Debbie is now way more careful about telling me or asking me to do things. When we first moved, she says, it'd be really nice if we had a better view of the lake. And I said, well, you can only take a tree down on your own property. And the next day I cut a tree down. Apparently it was the wrong tree. And she reminds me of that on a fairly regular basis. So now, not only is she more careful in asking me to do things, I am more careful at listening. And I will commit to listening and learning and responding where appropriate.
Excellent, thank
Vote for
you.
Dan.
Yeah. Leona.
First of all, congratulations to all the candidates that are running for council. It's not an easy thing to have the courage to stand up and put your name forward. It is always a lesson in humility, whether you win or whether you lose. And thank you to each one of you for doing that. To past councils and volunteers, you've made this village a wonderful place to live. And I thank each and every one of you for that. As I said before, I'm not going to make empty promises. I haven't been to every council meeting. I haven't read every council meeting, and I haven't read every bylaw. But what I will do is I will make sure that I listen. Looking outside the box is something that you can always do. You can always say, well, okay, yeah, we have this hall here, but what could we do to make it better? There are always solutions, and that's something that I pride myself in being able to do. Being creative, meeting the needs of the residents, that's always the best course of action that's out there. Patience is one thing, communication is another, and making sure that you as a community are aware of what the strategic directions of council are and getting your input back from it. Paul Harvey always said, there's the rest of the story, and that's exactly what happens at council level. You may bring an idea forward, but there always is the rest of the story. So I will listen to residents, to council, to our CAO. I will make decisions in the circumstances that are presented to me. I have no skin in the game except that I live here, I love it, and compromise is one of the best words in the English language. Please vote for me on August 2nd.
Thank you. Donna?
Well, as I started out, I did mention that I would be available, and that would be one of my cornerstones in terms of listening to the community and involving you in committees as you wish. I'm certain there would be calls for committee members because there's a lot of expertise in this community, a lot of people that know a lot of things that could be very beneficial. So vote for Donna.
Tamara, thank you. You did a great job. Appreciate it. Thank you all for coming again. And even if you don't vote for me, please vote. Anybody who doesn't think their vote counts, check the by-election. A candidate lost by 1 vote. So tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell everybody, please vote. I'm not perfect. I learned a lot in the 2 terms I did with Lauren. I learned a lot. So I'm going to take that experience. Now that I'm retired, I vow to spend much more time in village work than I did my other terms, because with a full-time job, you're limited. So I'm fully retired. I spend most of my time out here, not all of it. We still live in Calgary and go back and forth, mostly because of grandkids. We got grandkids everywhere. But again, I would promise to work collaboratively with any council, the 2 council members that get elected, if I get elected. And thanks for coming.
All right, well, first of all, I briefly want to thank all the other candidates. You know, as I've listened to this, everybody speak tonight, what a great, strong group of candidates that we have here, and I think that speaks really well for White Sands going forward. I'm sure that you know, have a very strong council, whoever the 3 members are that are for it, and I certainly hope to be part of it myself. Thanks to the Hall Society and Tamara, Cheryl, and Andrea for putting this on. You know, I've seen over the last years, I've gotten a little bit closer to the workings around the village, how important the Hall Society is to the village here, and really appreciate that. And of course, thanks to everybody that is showing their interest in coming out on such a beautiful night to spend it listening to the 5 of us ramble on about different questions. So really appreciate the interest that everybody is showing. I think, you know, I would just say, you know, it's been a great experience being on council this last year. Learned a ton, really starting to hit my stride, and really excited to continue on with this and to put another term into this and help to grow and help to build this village. It's been a great experience, and I'd love to continue it. So I ask for your vote on August 2nd as well.
Excellent, thank you. Thank you to the timekeeper, to the question gatherer, to the film crew, and to everybody for spending your evening with us. I hope you found that this was helpful, and a humongous thank you to all the candidates. It was a good night. Thank you very much.